Okay, welcome back to the Mental Toughness Podcast.org. This is Steve Siebold, and welcome back to the show. Remember to subscribe to the Mental Toughness Podcast.org at mentaltoughness.podcast.org. Hit subscribe on the top right-hand corner, and we'll send you an email every week letting you know about the new episode. We do this once a week, and we want to be able to contact you so you don't miss an episode. All right, so today we're going to talk about embracing incremental change and improvement. Now, why an episode about embracing incremental change? Because I think a lot of times we're all going for, and I'm as guilty as this as anyone, going for wholesale changes. Like, I want these big results tomorrow. And in life, it usually doesn't work like that. In business, it usually doesn't work like that. It's kind of the reason I've kind of rallied over the last few years about this whole 10x your business, 10x this, 10x that. 10x is a really big number. 10 times in your business. For one, if you have any substantial size business, you do not want to grow by 10 times. Not real fast, because you'll put yourself out of business. It's a really, in my opinion, it's a very naive, flamboyant way to say things, and it's been embraced by a lot of people. 10x this, 10x that. 10x, usually not. Pretty impractical and really not something you really want to do because it could actually put you out of business growing that fast. But I know it's just sort of a flashy thing that people have used and that type of thing. But incremental change is really reality. And again, mental toughness is about living in objective reality, not fantasy. And again, I don't think it's many. I think it's most people, especially when it comes to performance. They live in fantasy. They really do. And it's not because of intelligence. It's because emotional creatures tend to make emotional leaps, and they don't have to have much evidence to support those leaps. And it's fostered, especially in America. You know, we're one of the most highly emotionally driven countries. I think we are the most highly emotionally driven country in the world. And I don't mean that in a good way. I don't think that's a good thing at all. We get away with it because it's a rich country. You know, we get away with it because of our power and our size. But critical thinking and emotion rarely go together. Emotion and motivation go together. You know, I mean, there's nothing like an emotionally motivated performer. When someone's being driven by their emotion, their motivation level is incredible. But when it comes to critical thinking, emotion is like adding alcohol to your decision making. The more you drink, the dumber you get. And same with emotion. The more, as emotion goes up, logic goes down, intelligence goes down. And so thinking that, I'm going to make these giant wholesale changes overnight is it's delusional and it's emotional, and it really isn't healthy in any way. And it certainly is not mental toughness. So incremental change and improvement is really the order of the day. That's really what we're going for. We're going for incremental change. If I can just change a little bit, if you can just change a little bit every day, every week, every month, every year, then over time, it's amazing what happens. It's a compounding effect. It's like compound interest. You know, I did a class last night here at the mansion, in our studio at the mansion for a bunch of people on how money works. We do these classes every couple weeks here, and people come in from different places in the area here outside of Atlanta, and I was talking about compound interest, and most people really don't understand compound interest. They think they do, but they don't, because the change in compound interest in the beginning is very small. It's like the old saying, would you rather have $1 million up front or a penny a day doubled every day? And of course, what most people say, they go, well, I'll take the $1 million. You sure you don't want the penny a day doubled every day for 30 days? And they say, no, I want the $1 million. Well, if you take a penny a day doubled every day for 30 days, it's more than $3 million. So why is that? Because people don't understand the compounding effect. And habits are much the same. And change is much the same. It's incremental. It's small. You don't typically see it for a while, just like compound interest. You're not blown away with the compound interest numbers in the beginning. It's incremental. And then all of a sudden, it starts to compound in bigger ways, and it starts to leap and grow like crazy. And it's almost like magic. It's not, but it almost seems like that. But incremental change, let's face it, is not sexy. It's not flashy. It's boring is what it is. It's just boring. Habits are boring. I remember being playing junior tennis, and as I got older, you get better and better and start playing in front of bigger and bigger crowds. And I hit some shot 80 feet away, thread the needle, just flying off the court, and just blast a shot at, 75 miles an hour, and just clip half an inch of the baseline, and the crowd would go crazy, and the reporter would come up to you at the end of the match and say, how do you thread the needle like that under pressure, running full speed, and drill the thing within a half an inch of an 80-foot shot? How do you do that? Boring days and nights, weeks, months, and years of practice. That's how. When nobody was in the stands, when it was raining outside, when it was snowing half the time outside, when no one was cheering your name. Boring, practice, ad nauseum. That's how you do it. It's not sexy. Now, it was sexy when I hit the shot, in front of 10,000 people or whatever it was, but it wasn't boring getting there. I mean, it wasn't sexy getting there. It was boring getting there. It was incremental change and improvement. And I think that's where we need to be. If we're going to be critical thinkers, if we're going to be mentally tough, we've got to be thinking incremental change. 10x, it sounds very flashy. Incremental changes doesn't sound flashy. That's why they don't use it on the covers of books and in seminars, and speakers don't say, well, how about incremental change? How about 1/10 of 1%? People go boring. But that's the reality of change. And it's usually the reality of improvement. So that's what we're really going for, is incremental change and improvement. And I would have you focus, and I tell clients this all the time, and as I was a mental toughness coach for so many years, I would say, let's go for the little changes. Let's go for the polishing, just the little things, because after a while, those things add up. I was just working with a gentleman, friend of mine, client, on one of his books. And he said, well, what do you think about this new chapter? And I said, well, let's go over the chapter line by line and then word for word and see if all of these words are absolutely necessary for the chapter. He goes, you know how many words are in this chapter, Steve? It's a big chapter. There's thousands of words. And I said, right. And we need to go over every single one of them to make sure every word is doing work. Now, if you're a writer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is writer language, okay? Every word needs to do work. It's an old saying in writing. I don't know who coined it, but it wasn't me, and it was a long time ago. But that's the truth. So the guy said, he goes, well, that seems like it's going to take a long time. And I said, yes, it's going to take a long time. It's called incremental improvement. It's not sexy, it's not flashy, but at the end of the day, all those words you take out that are not doing work, they add up. And that is sexy, because that will create major change, but it comes in increments. So I won't go on and on about this because it's pretty simple, but I guess what I'm trying to say is don't fall for the sexy, the 10x, the bigger than life and all that nonsense, because it's possible. It's just not possible overnight. It's not possible. People say, I'm going to 10x my business this year. I don't think you want to 10x unless your business is very, very small. I don't think you're going to want to grow it by 10 times in 1 year. It'd be very difficult to hold a company together that grows at that rate. I'm sure someone's done it before. Very difficult. It's just a flashy, really, title and concept that naive people believe in, that don't know better. Incremental change, again, is more of a reality. When you get with people that really understand performance, they understand that incremental change and improvement is the order of the day. That is the holy grail, because after a while, all those little incremental changes add up and make a huge difference. So don't feel like you have to change overnight. Don't feel like you have to improve Major League overnight. Just a little at a time, a little at a time, a little at a time adds up over, a period. And all of a sudden, bam, you get this result and people go, what? How did you pull that off? 1 day at a time in increments. Something to think about. All right. So remember to subscribe. Okay. It's the end of this episode, but subscribe. Mental Toughness Podcast.org. Mental Toughness Podcast.org. Subscribe in the top right-hand corner, and we'll send you an email every week with the new episode. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.